So, have you ever stopped to wonder if you're falling into common financial traps that are just silently costing you money? Well, when it comes to the tax-free savings account, millions of people are completely missing out on its true potential by making some really simple, totally avoidable errors. But today, we're going to fix that. We're going to look at the massive opportunity cost of getting this wrong, and more importantly, how getting it right can completely change your financial trajectory.
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive deep into the data and the actual rules to completely transform how you view the TFSA, taking you straight from the basic foundation all the way to total optimization.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First up, the superpower. Second, the rule book. Third, the strategy. And finally, the pitfalls.
Section 1. The superpower. What exactly is a TFSA?
All right, so the tax-free savings account is a registered account offered by the Government of Canada, and it's available to literally any Canadian who has reached the age of majority in their province. But its absolute biggest superpower, it offers completely tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals.
The sheer versatility of this account is frankly amazing. You can use it like a standard savings account for short-term goals, or, and this is where it shines, you can invest through it for long-term targets. We're talking major purchases, your retirement, or building up a rock-solid emergency fund. And here is the absolute best part. Whether your investments generate interest, dividends, or massive capital gains, every single cent of those earnings belongs to you, completely tax-free. Plus, there is zero annual tax reporting for the income generated inside the account. It's totally clean, it's incredibly efficient, and let me tell you, the compound growth math on a completely tax-free basis is simply staggering over a lifetime.
Moving right along to Section 2, the rulebook, how the TFSA actually works. So the TFSA is subject to an annual contribution limit. But hey, if you can't max it out right away, do not stress. That unused room doesn't just disappear, it carries forward indefinitely. Your capacity to save literally just rolls over and keeps building up year after year after year. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between the TFSA and other accounts like the RRSP or the First Home Savings Account. With an RRSP or an FSHA, if you withdraw money, that contribution room is permanently lost. Poof! Gone. But with a TFSA, you can pull your money out penalty-free, and that exact withdrawal amount gets added right back to your available contribution room on January 1st of the very next year. It genuinely gives you the ultimate flexibility.
Section 3. The strategy, your long-term game plan.
When you compare it to other registered accounts, a truly fantastic baseline strategy is to open a TFSA and start contributing the absolute second you become eligible. Ideally, your goal should be to maximize your contribution room by the time you hit 40, or even earlier if you can swing it. If you've already started contributing to an RRSP or FHSA before age 40, a highly effective portfolio structure is allocating roughly 50 to 60% of your long-term savings straight into your TFSA. You want to make sure the vast majority of your early growth is locked in entirely tax-free. Let's move to and see how this builds later in life. As your financial picture matures, your income naturally rises and your retirement strategy evolves, right? So you might want to gradually shift that balance. The pivot gently moves toward a 60% RSSP and 40% TFSA split. This is a dynamic game plan. It evolves with you, allowing you to optimize your tax brackets during those peak earning years while still keeping a really robust, tax-free bucket of capital on the side. All right, Section 4, the pitfalls, avoiding common TFSA mistakes. Unfortunately, when you look at the data, it shows that a ton of Canadians just do not use their TFSA efficiently. There are three major, distinct mistakes people make that completely kill their account's optimization. Number 1 is holding only cash. Number 2 is holding only long-term GICs. And number 3 is treating the account like a short-term ATM with frequent withdrawals. Let's break these down so you can see exactly what they're costing you. Mistake number 1 is what I call the cash-only trap. Keeping purely cash inside a TFSA earns little to absolutely zero interest. It is essentially the financial equivalent of stuffing your money under a really fancy, tax-free mattress.
If you're generating zero investment income, you are entirely wasting the tax-free advantage. You're leaving the pure magic of compound growth right there on the table. Honestly, if you want zero risk, a regular high-interest savings account might actually be a much better fit, leaving your precious TFSA room for assets that are actually going to grow.
Mistake number 2 involves hoarding long-term GICs. Now, yes, the interest earned on a guaranteed investment certificate inside a TFSA is completely tax-free. However, locking all your money into long-term GICs carries a massive hidden danger: inflation risk. The return on these guaranteed certificates might simply not be enough to preserve your purchasing power over long periods of time, mostly because inflation is quietly, constantly eating away at the value of those returns.
So the crucial point is this. For non-active investors looking down a long-term horizon, there is a much better alternative. Broad market mutual funds or exchange-traded funds provide significantly greater long-term growth potential than just sitting on GICs. You want that tax-free umbrella protecting the absolute largest amount of growth possible. The opportunity cost of playing it too safe over a 30-year timeline, it can literally be hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost tax-free wealth. No joke.
And finally, mistake number 3, the short-term ATM. It is incredibly common to see people contribute to a TFSA only to turn right around and withdraw the funds 2 months later for some minor expense. Listen, if you are making frequent withdrawals for very short-term goals, a standard savings account is just far more practical. Constantly pulling money out totally interrupts the compounding process and really defeats the entire purpose of long-term tax-free investing. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely vital question you need to ask yourself today. Are you truly investing, or are you just using your TFSA as a temporary piggy bank? The greatest advantage of this account comes from decades of uninterrupted tax-free growth. Do not waste that superpower. So, are you ready to let your money actually start working for you?